Yeah, they use my blimp more than that week, Pete, than I use it all season.
And the fans love that thing.
Hey,
Here, here. I move we go into closed session, the city council to discuss strategy with council about matters that are presently in litigation because public disclosure would be likely to prejudice or disadvantage the position of the city in that litigation.
Second.
third.
Get me down. That'll be my one and only for the day.
Yeah.
Thank you. The rest of them can fight out all those other ones.
All right. Dan has turned into.
Capron, we'll start over.
Hey,
Capron?
what about it?
Aye.
Aye.
Greckin?
Aye.
Moore?
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
Waters?
I move we go into closed session, the city council discuss strategy with council about where matters of where litigation is imminent because public disclosure would be likely to prejudice or disadvantage the position of the city in that litigation. There's a second.
Greckin?
Aye.
Moore?
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
Waters? Capron?
Aye.
We could just say ditto on Alex coming? I move we return to open session.
Gretkin,
Aye.
Moore,
Aye.
Scott,
Aye.
Waters, Capron.
Aye.
I move we adjourn the closed session.
Second.
Moore,
Aye.
Scott,
Did you get,
Aye.
Waters,
where's,
Capron.
yeah,
Man.
aye.
Aye.
I turned around and threw it up. You seen me.
I don't know. I just saw.
We taking
Anybody need a
minute?
break?
I'm good.
Call the roll.
Somebody's bugging me. Moore,
Why is that?
Here.
Scott,
Here.
Waters,
Aye, here.
Capron,
Here.
Gretkin.
Here.
No, but you have to write it. Please stand for a moment of silent prayer followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Amen. I pledge allegiance
To the flag under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, I have two proclamations. Carla Granstrom, are you here? There you are.
Good, thanks.
7 children die every day in America from abuse and neglect, whereas 3,300 children in the state of Iowa were served by child advocacy centers as victims of sexual and physical abuse or neglect this year. Whereas child abuse can have a long-term psychological, emotional, and physical effects that can have lifelong consequences for victims of abuse. Whereas President Barack Obama has proclaimed the month of April, maybe we should change that one.
Probably.
We'll get you a new one.
Okay.
I hope Trump did the same. Month of April is National Child Abuse Prevention Month. And whereas effective child abuse prevention activities succeed because of the meaningful connections and partnerships created between child welfare, education, health, community, and faith-based organizations, businesses, and law enforcement agencies. And whereas each April, Mercy Child Advocacy Center and other supporters of the child advocacy movement ask the community to join the outreach efforts to reduce and prevent child abuse. Now therefore, I, Robert D. Scott, Mayor of the City of Sioux City, on behalf of the City Council, do hereby proclaim April 2017 as Child Abuse Prevention Month in Siouxland, and urge all our citizens to recognize this month by dedicating ourselves to the task of improving the quality of life for all children and families. Go ahead and say a few words if you would. Thank you for your work.
Child abuse is a national problem, and it affects children in every community, boys, girls, and all races and ethnic groups. It knows no boundaries. Over the last decade, there have been 20 million reports of child maltreatment. Last year in Iowa alone, there were 8,295 reported cases. Since its opening in 1989, the Mercy Child Advocacy Center has served over 16,300 children. 700,000 children are abused annually in the United States. Across the nation, over 300,000 children were served in child advocacy centers, and in last year, over 699 of those were at the Mercy Child Advocacy Center. Of those kids served in advocacy centers across Iowa, Woodbury County has the highest rate of abuse at 16.6 per thousand. 49.3% were under the age of 6, and 24.4% were under 1. In 90% of the cases, the alleged abusers were related to the children in some way. From the cost of fixing bones to the tab of healing broken psychics, the nation's price for helping abused children is staggering. The bills keep rolling in long after the kids are grown, as society pays for cops, judges, rehab nurses, and others who might deal with the enduring scars of child maltreatment. For every $50 spent on treating abuse, $1 is spent on prevention. But it is impossible to calculate the impact of the pain and suffering, reduced quality of life that victims of child abuse and neglect experience. We all want children to have great childhoods, to succeed in school, and to grow into healthy, productive citizens. Yet recent studies suggest that we are far from achieving this vision. We have to do better because every time we ignore or fail to reach a troubled child, we increase the odds that they will come back to haunt us tomorrow. The commitment we make today will define our community tomorrow. April is Child Abuse Prevention Month, and hundreds of communities across the nation participate by raising awareness that child abuse is preventable and what communities can do to ensure families are supported. Together, we can bring about change by educating others that preventing child abuse is possible, participating in local prevention efforts, donating to organizations that support families, advocate among elected officials for the development of Healthy Kids programs. We invite the community members here today to celebrate and support families by wearing blue on April 7th, Friday. We would like to thank the city for allowing us to tie the blue ribbons on the trees in the downtown area so people can stop and consider ways that they can support children. We would also like to thank the Avery brothers for their continued support in raising awareness through billboards throughout our community. And last, we would also like to thank you for the opportunity to share our vision of children with you.
Thank you. We'll get you a new proclamation.
Okay.
When's your new center going to open?
June.
We have a proclamation that reads, whereas service to others is a hallmark of the American character and central to how we meet our challenges in the nation's cities are increasingly turning to national service and city needs. And whereas national service expands economic opportunity by creating a more sustainable, resilient communities and providing education, career skills, and leadership abilities for those who serve. Whereas national service participants increase the impact of the organizations they serve with both their direct service and by recruiting and managing millions of additional volunteers. Whereas national service participants demonstrate commitment, dedication, and patriotism by making an intensive commitment to serve, a commitment that remains with them in their future endeavors. Whereas the Corporation for National Community Services shares a priority with mayors nationwide to engage citizens, improve the lives and strengthen communities, and is joining with the National League of Cities, City of Service, and mayors across the country to recognize the impact of service on the Mayor Day of Recognition for National Service on April 4, 2017. Now, therefore, I, Robert E. Scott, Mayor of the City of Sioux City, on behalf of the City Council, do hereby proclaim April 4, 2017 as National Service Recognition Day, and encourage our residents to recognize the positive impact of national service in our city and to thank those who serve and to find ways to give back to their communities. Thank you for all you guys do.
Thank
We
you, Mayor.
appreciate it very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I've invited a few volunteers to join me this afternoon to accept this proclamation. To my right, we have Dale and Susan Lyle. They have been volunteers since 2012. Dale retired in 2011 from city inspections. I happened to go to his retirement coffee and said, when you get bored, give me a call. So he's been volunteering ever since, so we're grateful for all that they've done. They've helped with Shop with Cops, Special Olympics fundraisers, handicap parking patrol on a weekly basis, and together they've almost donated nearly 800 hours. I also invited Colleen Goodwin. She's been a volunteer with us since 2007. So for 10 years, she's been a volunteer for the police department. She's been involved with the CERT training, which is Community Emergency Response Team training, clerical assistance in investigations and administration, RAGBRI 2010, flood-related assistance in 2011, Project Lifesaver Assistant going out to help us change batteries in the schools, and also helping with a project in our Identification Bureau currently. So I want to thank them all and all the volunteers for all their help. Our volunteer program truly allows our citizens to participate in our community policing events and efforts. This past fiscal year, our volunteers and police service donated more than 4,600 hours of time to the police department and the city of Sioux City. The volunteer board members of the Friends of the Sioux City Police Department also continue to meet on a monthly basis and donate funds for a variety of projects. 15 CERT volunteers participated in the annual 6-week training, and our Blue Angels, our elderly outreach folks, continue to visit elderly citizens on a weekly basis. Our handicap parking patrol wrote 183 tickets this past fiscal year. We're doing the best we can. Also issuing fire lane tickets, and they've assisted with volunteer fundraisers for Special Olympics. They've assisted in changing batteries for some of our Project Lifesaver clients, which there were 48 individuals on the program in June of 2016. We currently have 64 people on Project Lifesaver in Sioux City and Woodbury County, and the numbers continue to grow. They've also helped with clerical assistance. Trailblazers are out on the trails. They were out for 240 hours. They assisted with RAGBRAI last time it was in town. The list goes on and on. They do a lot behind the scenes to support our officers and our city, and we just want to thank them for the countless ways that they give back to our community. So thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Yo, get back here a minute. I want to talk to you. I just want to thank you for all that you do for the volunteers, because I've been involved with the Friends in the Police Department and other events that you do and other projects. We need good volunteers out there, and it's not hard to volunteer. And you can make it as much time as you want or as little time as you want, but it's for a great, great cause. So many different things in this community really depend on volunteers and depend on people like you to get the volunteers together. So I just want to thank you so much for all the hard work you do. We really appreciate it.
Thank you very much, all
Good
of you.
job. Thank you. Very much. I really appreciate you keeping me on task. Doug Strobing with the Events Facility Advisory Board. Doug, come on up and tell us why you would like to serve.
Well, my name is Doug Strobing, and I'm pleased to be here. I'm married to my wife, Susie. Hate to say how many years. We got married when we were very young, I guess. But 46 years ago. She taught school in Sioux City for 36 years. I'm a father of 3 grandchildren. I have 7. I've been in the insurance business basically all my life. Actually, I've been in the marketing part, the most of it. My background, I'm born and raised in Sioux City, went to Central High School. All the schools that I attended are now closed. I zapped all the knowledge that was to be gained out of each one of them, and they had to close them after that. But I was involved in a variety of activities in the community. Early on, I was involved in Exchange Club, which is a community service organization. I was Commodore for Rivercade, and in the 90s, we expanded all of the outdoor free entertainment, or very affordable entertainment. Is involved in that. I've also watched it grow, our community grow from being a change from being involved in livestock and being involved in railroads and all these things over the years to where we are now. From being a downtown community shopping area to now the struggles on that situation. I feel we've done a lot in our community to entice people to come, and I'm anxious to offer my skills to try to bring more opportunities to Sioux City in the convention industry or other types of tourism. I believe we have to be a proponent of ourselves and maybe utilize some of our own ideas to expand some opportunities for events to come here. I was impressed by the Steins and Vines organization, the chili cook-offs, all the different things that have taken place here from Harley Nights on down the road. We can't be just an entertainment venue. I think we need to be much more than that. But I firmly believe that if we have the facilities, that we can draw opportunities for the conventions to come here. I have now the opportunity to give more time. I'm no longer traveling as much as I did in my work. And so I look forward to the opportunity to be involved. Other opportunities that I was involved in, I was past president of Habitat for Humanity. And during my tenure, when Riverview School closed, we was active in turning that property over to a neighborhood. I was also active back in the Rivercade stages of bringing the ice cream social after the parade to Sioux City, doing different things to entice people to come here and want to participate and want to stay. We've done an excellent job over the years of developing the trail system and all the other venues from the Orpheum on down the line. But entertainment can't be the only thing that we offer. And I firmly believe there are other avenues to pursue.
Questions?
Open to any questions.
Are there certain opportunities that you'd like to see that you have an idea of being able to do right now?
That's a good question, Pete. I've actually tried to come up with some brainstorming avenue to do it. I think we have to do some research into some other communities to find out not only what we've lost, but what brings conventions to other communities instead of ourselves. I think I have the opportunity to do that time-wise. But I think there's some things that we can do, and I don't know exactly what they are. I would like to think outside the box and do some brainstorming with people. But it may be the railroad, I don't think of what they're called now, but the people that have the little train sets, type thing. See if there's a convention someplace that does that. I think there's just all kinds of things out there, and that's what we have to find.
I appreciate that, and thanks for applying for the job.
Thank you.
Thanks, Doug. Next, Teresa Brim will be rescheduled.
I didn't prepare a speech, but I'll just tell you a little bit about myself. My name is Tracy Winters, and I'm residing at 4511 Garrettson in Sioux City, Iowa. I purchased my home there in 2007, so I've been there about 10 years. I'm a lifelong resident of Siouxland area. Was raised in South Sioux City, Nebraska, went to high school there. And I attended Briarcliff University, got my bachelor's science degree in radiology. I went to school in Yankton for my radiology certificate. Came back to Sioux City and started working at the Winnebago Indian Hospital in Winnebago. Worked there for 10 years. Started out as an x-ray tech and then went to become the supervisor there. As the supervisor, I did have to do a lot of conflict resolution with the staff, with patients, things like that. So I do have experience with that. And I would do reports if there was any complaints about the department that involved the department. I would make sure I took it all down in factual writing and would submit it to the board there at the hospital. And these things had to be investigated very thoroughly because CMS and other regulating entities came into the hospital to make sure you were taking care of all these complaints that would come in. Thank goodness radiology didn't have many at all, and I pride myself on that. But the ones they did, I did take care of them. So I have experience with very different adverse groups, and Native Americans at Winnebago, elderly, very young, because I took x-rays of the entire population. They serve Sioux City and surrounding areas. And after that, I decided to take a break, came back into Sioux City to, I lived here anyway, but I looked for employment, started working at Adventure Staffing, kind of got out of patient care for a little bit. And I enjoyed working there. What I did is worked with interviewing and recruiting CNAs, nurses, RNs for our nursing facilities around the area. And I enjoyed doing that, but then I missed the patient care. So I got back into that and I worked for a small clinic here in Sioux City, taking x-rays, and we serve a very diverse population in all areas, ages, socioeconomics, so I have experience with that. I am going back, returning to Briarcliff. I put in an application to get my master's in healthcare management. I feel that I have the skills to serve on the Human Rights Commission. I believe I have what it takes. And since I'm not in the position to, I think that if you're not in the position to financially donate to something you believe in, then you can donate your time and your talents. And that's what I'm here to do.
Very good.
For not having a speech ready, you did well.
Thank you. Are there any questions?
Questions?
Thanks for making the application.
Thank you.
Okay,
Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Senior Advisory Committee, Daniel Burrows.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to be here. I have no speech also, but I was read in the paper that a new commission was going to be formed with 4 senior citizens, which interests me a great deal because I am a lifelong citizen of Sioux City and I've been around enough to know that now that I am a senior citizen, I've talked to a lot of senior citizens. I hear more than anything when people are retired or what do you do? Well, I sit around. I don't know. I'm afraid to be retired because I'm not sure what to do. Is there anything to do? So was educated in Sioux City, lived here all my life, went to grade school, high school, college here, graduated from Briarcliff with a BA. Went to Wayne State for a master's degree in educational administration and have spent 20 years at Jackson Recovery and 20 some years as a teacher in the system. So I've had a lot of experience working with people. And I see a lot of seniors sitting around really anxious to maybe do something and trying to figure it out. And I think with the Senior Citizen Committee, we can pull together a lot of people. There is a tremendous talent in the senior citizens. And I think that with a particular commission, and I was rather excited to see that finally a group was going to be formed to enhance this group of people. Listening to the people prior to me, there is a lot of volunteerism that's going around, and we would somehow like to pull all of that together and figure out where these senior citizens can best be used. So the brainstorming, I haven't gotten together with a group of people, but I don't think I can do this alone, and there's lots of people. Being in education, I know that the school system is in desperate need for volunteers. Kids need to learn how to read, and they need people to teach them how to read. I could, get innumerable amount of senior citizens to sit down with kids on a daily basis and teach them how to read. I'm sure we all know that if you can't read, you can't do much. And that's only one area that I think of right away. And as everyone has said that has stood up here and talked, that the opportunities and the services are immense. So that's why I would like to be a part of this new commission.
Hey, thanks for applying, Dan. I just want to know, are you using the senior tee boxes now or not?
I would rather keep that a secret.
And I happen to know how old you are.
The ones that are way up there, yes.
But thanks. I think you've got a lot of good ideas, and I appreciate you applying for the position.
Thank you.
too, thank you.
You're not as radical as that brother Bill, are you?
I mean, the one that's really older than I am? No.
He's a good guy too. In fact, I thought he was going to apply too, so. All right, well, thank you.
Thanks, Dan.
Thank you.
All right, now we'll move on to the consent agenda, which is items 3 through 8B today. You can consider that they pass unanimously unless a separate roll call vote is asked for by a council member. If you want to be heard on any of these items, please come forward as I read them. If you want to be heard on something that's not on the agenda, please come up at the end of the meeting under citizen concerns. State your name and address at that time so we have it for the record. I'll move the consent agenda.
Second.
3 is a reading of the City Council minutes of March 27, 2017. 4 actions relating to agreements and contracts. A is a resolution awarding a contract to Grumman Hicks for the Half Moon Booster Station Facility Improvement Project. B is a resolution granting a permit to Electronic Innovations for the underground cable through various locations, including Jones, Jennings, and Jackson Streets. I think I have to abstain probably twice because you guys made me do the bond twice for whatever apparent reason no one knows, but I'll abstain today.
Glenn Ellis, City Engineer. I had just want to make a comment. The applicant, which I believe is in the room, had sent our staff an email earlier today questioning the permit and them being the, as it states in the resolution, owning, maintaining, and operating that fiber or the fiber line that's going to be installed. Mercy, they're installing it for Mercy Hospital. And typically when we have a fiber permit come in, the applicant is the one that we work with to get the bond, to get the resolution to be the owner of that bond. And so our staff moved forward in that direction, having them be the owner as
That's
it's
not the
stated.
case. Because I know those guys from Eastern Iowa, I know them well, and they were doing work for the other hospital, and the hospitals took out the permits. Those guys didn't, I don't think. I thought you were wrong the first time you wanted me to do the bond. I thought you were wrong the second time you had me do the bond, because the hospital owns it. Why would Electric Innovations be responsible, other than they should bond to these guys? But the ultimate should be who owns the cable when it's in the ground.
Like I said, and that's the road we went down to because of the applicant. But yeah, we would request that this bond or this permit be issued to Mercy Hospital or Mercy Medical. We could either have it come back next week, or we could, I don't know if it would just be one of those things where we have a motion to change it, but.
Are you guys gonna be in a position to get the bond?
We can.
Of all along, not that I don't like selling bonds, but my secretary will be real happy to hear that for the third time this is wrong, Nicole.
Hi, I'm Dave Smetter from Mercy Medical Center, and this is Scott Flynn, who's our owner's rep. This is fiber that goes to our new Child Advocacy Center. We didn't have a preference. We just wanted to follow what the rules were. So initially, when we were told that it should be Mercy because we own it, we got all the necessary paperwork and turned that in. So I suppose when it comes down to it, it doesn't matter to us. We're just trying to do the right thing.
What I could add, if I could, please, is that we wanted to do this work in January or February. The Child Advocacy Center, they're ready to move in about 6 weeks. We're now in a jam to get this work done. If we have to wait another week, it puts us further in a jam.
Can't you do an
today?
amendment to the agreement that says they can assign the cable when it's installed?
One of the options that I would suggest is that the council approves it subject to receiving the corrected bond. That would be something that could be done today. I'm sorry, Mayor. I don't know. It could be approved subject to the necessary paperwork and the bond being approved under the correct entity, which it can go either way. And as long as you're in agreement with the contractor that's doing the work, that you'll be the applicant and the holder of the bond, that's fine with us. But we just need to make sure that that's what your agreement is.
We're fine with that. We just want to get it going, whatever it takes.
So
So an amendment on the floor? Is that what was
I'm
said?
not touching this one.
This on
I'm
B?
abstaining no matter what, because in the event that, however they do it,
This is on 4B?
well, Electric
And if I could-
Innovations will no longer furnish the bond.
Well, and my question to Glenn would be, do we have paperwork where Mercy submitted the application previously?
I believe the original application still had Electric Innovations listed as the applicant. So I believe the permit says that the applicant's Electric Innovations, the owner would be Mercy Medical, as the current one there in states.
Why don't you just amend it to say Mercy and Electric Innovations? Well, of course, they don't want their name on it. I don't
They're not
blame
going to
them.
own, maintain it, yeah.
Can we just amend it, Glenn, to put Mercy on it?
They're starting the process all over again. And they want to get
We
started.
don't want to do that.
If you'll allow me 1 second, Glenn, can I see the paperwork that you have real quick?
We don't want to. I'm with you. We got to try to get it done today.
It's gonna be timely.
Thank you.
yeah.
Oh, you know, I did my part on this, but it didn't work out.
Or we do the
Trying to get it done.
We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Or we do an assignment.
Well, if you do the assignment, they somehow have to come in and say that they're responsible after the day, because Thompson doesn't want to be responsible. They'll put it in, but that's where they want their responsibility end, other than what's under the contract, I'm sure.
Yep.
I don't blame them.
The way that our current application reads is that the applicant is solely responsible for essentially the fiber in the ground. Here we have a situation where the applicant and the owner are different, so that's outside our normal paperwork that we would process.
That happens every day. Fibercom never puts all their stuff in. They sub out to Nebcom or
Correct.
whoever.
And Glenn just showed me in a previous one that Fibercom had done where they're listed as the applicant and the owner, and then they separately list a subcontractor, but the bond comes from Fibercom when they're doing the work.
Right.
Yeah, the next two permits on the agenda tonight are the Fibercom ones, and they're listed as the applicant and owner. So.
And you have a bond from Electric Innovations right now, correct?
Mm-hmm. We're good at it. We've typed it twice now through this process.
I know. So what's the best way to resolve it?
What do you say? So an amendment will not work, is what you're telling me?
Well,
No.
So we could approve it tonight and then bring it back a week innovations and then bring it back next week with an amendment?
But you won't have a bond.
you could approve it subject to receiving the necessary bond.
Well, they should have to get the bond and change the name on the application. Is that?
Yeah, that'd be fine.
You can't make them redo a whole application. You've already approved it. Just change the name on it and everybody initial it.
Correct. So we could, the amendment would be for a resolution granting.
I'll make that motion to amend.
Second then.
And that's the right entity, isn't it? Mercy Medical Center?
Yes, sir.
So they'll be able to get on this right away then?
When we receive the bond.
You must have done a bond for something somewhere along the way, I'm assuming.
I would think so.
I don't know why you would ever. I can't imagine why you would have to furnish a bond is the only problem, but.
So I have a motion from Councilman.
Yeah, I second.
Second, okay.
Let me ask you this question, if it's gonna be a long time getting it from the sisters, can it be a joint? Could the bond have both names on it? I don't even wanna go there, they can work it out, you'll get it. I just wanna get you in the ground. Call the roll.
Moore,
Aye.
Scott,
I'm gonna abstain.
Waters. Aye. Capron.
Aye.
Greckin.
Aye.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You're welcome. Good luck.
Thank you.
Resolution granting a permit to Fibercom for the underground cable through various locations in Morningside. D is a resolution granting a permit to Fibercom for the underground cable through various locations in the downtown area. 5 are actions relating to property. A is a resolution proposing to sublease space at Public Safety Communications Tower at 3430 West 23rd Street to Motorola Solutions. Glenn, help me again. What do we get out of this? Because they're taking over our tower space, and I know we're going to get all this great service. What do we get? We get something in exchange, right?
Glenn Sedeby, Communications Director. This is actually the partnership between
the state.
Motorola's upgrading all of our current Starcom radio infrastructure to the latest software and hardware.
Well, the state's doing that anyway.
They're doing it statewide.
Yeah. So is Motorola paying for this?
Yes.
Okay, that's all. That's good. So they are still.
Yeah, and they're actually not putting anything on the tower. They're going to utilize our antennas and lines, just adding hardware in the building.
Thank you.
And we did get a consent to sublease from the school board last week.
Okay.
I'm going to abstain on item 5A as conflict of interest.
B is a resolution inviting proposals for the sale of land in the combined Floyd River urban renewal area and accepting the proposal of the Peace Reformed Church located at 4100 Outer Drive. I'm certainly not against the church, but why are we selling ground that could someday be a 4-lane street? I mean, everything is built to be a 4-lane. Or at least if that develops, it's going to need to be a 3-lane. And I'm wondering why we're doing this.
Jeff Hansen, Community Development Operations Manager. We looked at this prior to the vacation of the right-of-way, and we sat down with the engineers and determined that there'd be adequate amount of room for expansion. The way that they're grading the site, that it would still allow for an expansion.
Expansion to what level?
It would allow it to be expanded to a 4-lane road segment.
You're positive?
Yeah, looking at the original construction plans on Outer Drive, they did show where the widening would be. And so we looked at those measurements, we looked at the existing topography, we had the church provide additional topography for what their site would look like, and there would be a good blend there. That was our initial concern, is that we wouldn't have available land with the slopes. If you go out there now, it's very steep to the south.
But it's steep, that doesn't matter, it can still be graded.
Right, and so, yeah, it'll be blended in. The initial concern I had was that we would not have any remaining right-of-way to construct the additional lanes and then slope back up to where that was the property line.
And you do?
Based on the information that they provided, yeah.
We had drawings submitted by the engineer on the right-of-way, and that's when all that was determined that it could be met for an expansion.
Okay. 6 is a purchase. A is a resolution awarding a purchase order to Hawkins for the purchase of potassium permanganate at the water treatment plant. B is a resolution awarding a purchase order to Hi-Chem for the purchase of coagulant for the water treatment plant. See the list come forward. Anyone to be heard on any of those items? No one? Call the roll, please.
Scott.
Aye.
Waters.
Aye.
Capron.
Aye.
Greckin.
Aye.
Moore.
Aye.
9 is a hearing and resolution instituting proceedings for the authorization of a loan and disbursement agreement and the issuance of not to exceed $475,000 worth of sewer revenue capital notes. I'll move it.
Second.
Waters.
Aye.
Capron.
Aye.
Greckin.
Aye.
Moore.
Aye.
Scott.
I 10 is a hearing and resolution approving plans and specs for the construction of the interior remodel at the Long Lines Recreation Center Auditorium Space Project. Move it.
Second.
Capron.
Aye.
Greckin.
Aye.
Moore.
Aye.
Scott.
No.
Waters.
Aye.
11 is a hearing and resolution withdrawing through $300 civil penalty against Come and Go 228 1925 South Lakeport Street for violation of the Iowa liquor laws. Let me go back to the one before. That's the one before. I better make sure what I'm voting no on here.
For the
For the rec
floor
center.
and the seats.
Yeah, I'm not voting for all the seats. No, I'm right. Go ahead, then I'll move 11.
Second.
Greckin.
Aye.
Moore.
Aye.
Scott.
Aye.
Waters. Capron.
Aye.
12 is a hearing and resolution assessing a $300 civil penalty against Walmart 1361 3400 Singing Hills Boulevard for violation of the cigarette laws. Move it.
Second.
Moore.
Aye.
Scott.
Aye.
Waters.
Aye.
Capron.
Aye.
Greckin.
Aye.
13 is a hearing and resolution authorizing a city deed and approving the sale of property located at 3700 Street abutting 3700 Grandview Boulevard. Petitioners Ifricio and Connie K. Terracina. Move it.
Second.
Scott.
Aye.
Waters.
Aye.
Capron.
Aye.
Greckin.
Aye.
Aye.
14 is a hearing and resolution approving plans and specs for the construction of the Promenade Improvement Project. I'll move it.
Second.
Waters.
Aye.
Scott.
Aye.
Capron.
Aye.
Greckin.
Aye.
Moore.
Aye.
15 is a hearing and resolution authorizing a development agreement and accepting the proposal of Midnight LLC for the purchase of land in the combined Central Sioux City urban renewal area. I'll move it.
Second.
Capron.
Aye.
Greckin.
Aye.
Moore.
Aye.
Scott.
Aye.
Waters.
Aye.
16 is a resolution adopting 2017 first quarter supplement to the municipal code covering ordinances through ordinance number 2017-0293. I'll move it.
Second.
Greckin.
Aye.
Moore.
Aye.
Scott.
Aye.
Waters.
Aye.
Capron.
Aye.
17 is an ordinance amending chapter 1.01 code adoption of the municipal code to provide for adoption of the municipal code.
Second.
I didn't move it.
Yeah.
Move it.
Second.
Moore.
Aye.
Scott.
Aye.
Waters.
Aye.
Capron.
Aye.
Greckin.
Aye.
Anybody opposed to waiving the rules?
No?
Nope.
I'll move that.
Second?
Scott,
Aye.
Waters.
Aye.
Capron,
Aye.
Gretkin.
Aye.
Moore.
Aye.
Move second and third.
Second?
Waters,
Aye.
Capron,
Aye.
Gretkin,
Aye.
Moore,
Aye.
Scott.
Aye. 18 is a resolution approving a development agreement with Clayton Creek for the rural residential development located at 701 and 801 South Roswell Street. Deferred from March 27, 2017. Staff rep will request a motion to delete. I'll move that.
Second.
What was the motion? What did you say?
To delete.
Jeff Hansen, Community Development Operations Manager. Staff requests we delete this item so we can bring it back. We're currently working with the developer and their engineer on the proposed water main that would service this site. Some further design needs to be completed before we can do the agreement.
Without being real critical. But we've had this for over 7 or 8 months. How did we just discover that the water line was an issue? Has the engineers not looked at it until this point?
Sure, we had all had a chance to look at it. I think the concern came about with some recent water quality concerns in these dead-end 8-inch public water mains, where we're finding that one flusher is not adequate to be able to flush. Also, it depends on the number of residents. In this case, we only have 11 residential units on that 8-inch main. And so the turnover of that water would be rather limited with only 11 homes with an average of 500 to 600 gallons a day for water usage. And so we're looking at either additional flushers or the opportunity to go to a private main, which the city would not own nor maintain, and to be allowed to go to a smaller diameter pipe versus an 8-inch public main.
I'm going to go back to my original question. Why did it take so long to determine this if the engineering department had looked at it?
I don't have a good answer for that. We've all looked at it over the last, as you mentioned, 6 or 7 months. They have an engineer working on the project that designed the line. We brought in our additional field crews and staff to look at the proposal, and that's when the decision was made that that one flusher would not be adequate to be able to turn that water over.
Yeah, our involvement in the initial discussions involved our utility folks that are no longer here. And so we relied on their information in those meetings.
Enough said, we just blame the guy that isn't here. I'm looking forward to listening to the meetings after I leave. All right, thank you very much for the explanation now. We're just going to move ahead.
Capron,
Aye. Yeah, aye.
Gretkin,
Aye.
Moore,
Aye.
Scott,
Aye.
Waters.
Aye.
Oh, boy. I'd like to know who the people were that left. I still see everybody here, but 19 is a resolution approving a contract with ESA for asbestos abatement in the southeast balcony area of the Long Lines Family Recreation Center. Deferred from March 27, 2017. I'll move it.
Second?
Call the
Gretkin,
roll.
Aye.
Moore,
Aye.
Scott,
Aye.
Waters.
Aye.
Capron.
Aye.
20 is a resolution awarding a service provider agreement to Thompson Electric for a portion of the citywide arc flash study. I'll move it.
Second?
Call the roll. Oh, we going to talk about it?
If you want me to. I was reading through that, and why are some of the numbers so far off? I was trying to make sense of the memo and some of the bids and the different parts when it went individual. I mean, some were 50, like tens of thousands of dollars off between the two companies. Can you just explain it a little?
Sure. Spiro Vahulis, purchasing manager. When the request for quotes were first sent out, vendors had the option of either bidding the project in whole or individually by location. West Plains Engineering out of Sioux Falls, what they did was they grouped certain locations together and then gave discounts if that location was taken. So as far as to why the two bids differ in price so much, I guess we can't specifically answer to that.
Well, I have a even different question. the contractors are okay with you picking and choosing?
Both contractors have said they will do the work that they were low on.
Whatever site.
Yeah. And we have checked with West Plains, and they have said that initially, when their bid came in, they did not include labor, which may account for why their bid is lower than Thompson Electric's. So we checked with the vendor, and they assured us that the price would not change, the labor portion would not change, and the price for the points would not change also.
Labor. I mean, that's kind of the big part of it, right?
Well, somebody has an unbalanced bid here
Yeah.
that, once again, we haven't looked at it from that perspective. Now, because we don't have an engineer that would tell us who, because West Plains is the engineer.
Correct.
But you cannot, one party bids 140,000 on something and the other party bids 27,800. You can't have a balanced bid when one party bids, there was another wild one.
94 versus 16.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of asking.
That has to be somewhat of an unbalanced bid by somebody.
And the vendor from West Plains.
Todd Widener, West Plains Engineering. Yeah, so the labor party was talking about was the contractor work to open up panels, which I can't do. Miscommunication between us, but I said I would honor the bid. I bid it really tight because I need the work, and I've been doing this for 20 years, and I'm very efficient at it. I have software I can do all the input right on site, so I don't have much time back at the desk. So it's really thin margin for me, but.
So how are you going to open the deals if you can't open them?
I'm going to have a contractor do that for me. And I've told them I will honor that part.
Okay, well, I guess it's not an unbalanced bid.
Yeah.
Thanks for the clarification.
Someday you could explain what one is to me.
Are you calling Reagan and Angel?
I'm sorry, I had a whole PowerPoint.
Gretkin,
Aye.
Moore,
Aye.
Scott,
Abstain.
Waters,
Aye.
Capron.
Aye.
21 is a resolution awarding a service provider agreement to West Plains Engineering for a portion of the citywide arc flash study. I will say this, it's very, very unique where you have a contractor bid the work that is also the designer. There's an inherent conflict of interest when you do that. Is there not? Did they disclose on the front side they were going to bid?
West Plains did not design the bid.
Well, I just asked that and you said they did.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch that. They did not design it. The specs were written by city staff and sent out by city staff.
Okay, well, that's not what you said.
Okay.
So, okay.
Okay.
Call the roll, please.
Need a motion and a second?
I'll move it.
Second.
Moore,
Aye.
Scott,
Aye.
Waters.
Aye.
Capron,
Aye.
Gretkin.
Aye.
22 is a resolution approving a development agreement with Black and Blue Development for the residential development in the vicinity of 2809 and 2901 Floyd Boulevard to be known as Chestnut Hill. I'll move it.
Second.
So will the final plat be done on that before, by the end of the month?
By when?
Sorry, Dan, I missed.
The end of the month, will the final plat be approved by the end of the month?
Probably not. The preliminary plat has been approved by council. So if there are no changes to the preliminary plat, it won't go to planning and zoning. It'll just come back to council for final approval of that final plat. So it's not uncharacteristic for us to go this far and still not have a final plat, just in case something were to change on the preliminary. If anything changes on the preliminary, it has to go back through planning and zoning and then in front of city council as well.
We can find out. Rick, is anything going to change?
No.
Okay, there you go.
I know, I
But it's not,
specifically said.
yeah, but just so you know, it's not, it doesn't read that way. I mean, they can start the work now, but, and it's subject to the final plat, but the final plat doesn't have to be approved. It was subject to permitting and the final plat approval.
Along with the preliminary comes the grading plan, all of the other certifications, and I believe they provided, last week they provided their SWIP. So right now, without even this action, they could proceed with grading work. The reason we put such aggressive timetables was to ensure that the street got done as fast as possible, and the city's initial investment would help cover some of that infrastructure cost, as well as establishing what will be 80 townhomes. So that's why it's so expedited.
When would you anticipate the final plat would come through? I'm surprised it wouldn't be this month because there aren't any changes to it.
It possibly could be, and maybe Jeff can speak
of that, unless they choose to put up a bond for that. That's the only reason the only way that we could accept a final plat is by putting up a bond for all the work. And I don't believe that's the case with the developer.
No, that's why we have July 1 of 2018 for completion of all infrastructure and city right-of-way, which will be then dedicated to city at that point.
But our first payment's made July 1.
Of 17.
Right.
Correct.
So that'll be before it's completed?
Correct.
Before the final plat's approved.
And that's why the promissory note on the entire parcel, as well as we have the option of subsequently doing individual promissory notes, which I would rather not do, but we have that authority in the development agreement to break down the per lot.
I'm not sure the agreement reads that way, but I'm not going to worry about it then, if that's what you're telling me. I just don't think the agreement reads that way.
Mm-hmm.
I think it reads just the opposite. So you might want to look at that.
Okay.
Just so there's no misunderstanding or...
Exactly.
Or if a third party would pick it up and look at it and say, why are we doing it this way? Okay. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Scott,
Mike?
Waters,
Aye.
Capron,
Aye.
Greckin.
Aye.
Moore.
Aye.
Reinvestment district presentation.
Good afternoon.
I played a part in asking for this, Marty, because I think we're, as hard as we try, I think we're on different pages as far as what the facts are. So I'm hoping the presentation today will be factual and that we can look at what the reinvestment district really is all about, the project it ties into, the numbers that it ties in with, and what the taxpayer's responsibility is versus what the developer's is. That's what I'm concerned with, because
The argument that they said we had to build.
I'm getting a lot of misinformation from the public. So hopefully we can square that up.
Sure.
It's not again, and I want input and comments, but it won't be a question of whether you agree or disagree. I just want to make sure we know what the facts are.
We'll do our best to.
That's what was driving it for me.
We'll do our best to walk through it. Renee is handing out, or handed out, some background information. Might look familiar to you. It's something that we provided to, I believe, to the city council and also to the county supervisors as well back in June of last year. We've made a few updates to it, but it's basically an outline of what we provided to you last year. But go ahead. And we'll kind of give an overview here, but there's some more details in that handout. So can you go ahead and
Lisa, you got me? Thanks.
please? Okay, so the Iowa Reinvestment District program is a competitive state program that began, I think, in 2013. The state of Iowa allocated $100 million to the program and made it a competition. So it really was over 2 years, and in the first year, 3 cities were chosen in a competition, and Sioux City did not enter into the competition the first year, but in the second year we did, along with about, I think, 8 other cities, and eventually 5 were chosen, and then that one dropped out, so it's 4. So there were 3 cities in the first round, 4 cities in the second round. And the stated goals of the program were to have a project that would improve the quality of life, create and enhance unique opportunities, and substantially benefit this municipality, region, and state. So a key there was, for example, just a regular hotel by itself would not be enough to sort of meet that goal of having something that would be a unique tourism or venue that would attract people to the state or into the city. They limited it to 25 acres, which is critical. It sounds like a lot of land. It's really not that much. And if you link together different sites, you have to use street right-of-way. And then at the heart of it is, it's really a sales tax TIF. It allows state hotel and motel taxes and sales taxes within that 25-acre district from projects within that district to be used, to be captured and used for the district's projects for up to 20 years or until you reach the total amount of money allocated to you by the state. So it has to be new projects within that district. You can't just create a district and capture all the revenue that's being generated today, although a building that was rehabbed more than 50% of its value would count. So, could count. So when we started this project a couple of years ago, we identified, again, tried to find 3 projects that would meet that uniqueness standard of a unique entertainment cultural center that would support Sioux City and the tri-state region. And you have to kind of fit those within a 25-acre district that are close to each other. And we hit upon these 3, one being a new convention center hotel, the Virginia Square project that Ho-Chunk at that time was just beginning, and then the Ag Expo and Learning Center, which was a project we had started working on with the county folks. So it has the advantage of being at a major downtown gateway that under construction with the interstate. And the total project is $72 million, public and private, which again was important in that competition, showing a substantial project. One project has to be at least $10 million. So, 3 projects are tied together in several ways. One is that they all must proceed in order to receive the funding. And again, because we entered this as a competition showing, so there's a value of this project and the uniqueness of these projects. The way it works is once the largest project is completed and you cut the ribbon, then the Department of Revenue establishes the district and you would start collecting the funds from within the district. So the largest project triggers it. And again, as I said, the state hotel, motel, and sales taxes collect up to 20 years. That's the state portion. So when you stay in a hotel room and you pay 12%, 7% is already going to the local, 5% goes to the state. That's the part you get to keep under this program, which normally would go to the state. And in sales taxes, they said 4%. Keeping an extra penny for themselves. So that's kind of where the funds come from. And in our case, this program provides essential funding for all 3 projects.
What would be the large part to signify that in this project?
The Convention Center Hotel is the largest, although all 3 are kind of about the same size, but it's slightly larger.
But once the ribbon cutting of that project is when it would start collecting?
That's when the 20-year period would begin. Now, we don't think that it would take all 20 years to collect the funds, but that's when the period starts. So the first project, again, as you know, is a new convention center hotel, 5-story Courtyard Marriott with 150 rooms, full-service amenities. And in each case, Bob asked us to talk about the funding of each one, and so did Dan. So private investment there is $21 million, and that's the cost of the hotel. City assistance is the property tax rebates themselves, 15-year rebate, approximately $6 million. The convention center improvements themselves, including a pre-function space, ballroom, and the parking ramp, about $5.1 million. One of the benefits of this project is the increased efficiencies for facility marketing and management by Kinsa that we would anticipate would reduce the annual subsidy currently going into the convention center, although we did not specifically build that into the model as far as the financing. We think that will be a benefit of this project. We did want to say a couple words about the parking because that's come up a lot, and we will get to that later as well. But a question about, we want to point out that we believe there's available convenient parking in this area. There's nearly 1,100 stalls in the Heritage and Discovery parking ramps today. I think the numbers are something like during the daytime about 80% full on Heritage and about 50% or 40 to 50% on Discovery, but at nights and on the weekends, they would be mostly vacant. So mostly those are monthly parkers. So we believe that for convention business parking ramp, space is available. I realize, of course, not everybody always uses them, and if there's an available surface lot space, you're going to take that one first. But nevertheless, the city has a significant investment in those ramps. There's an additional 349 public parking stalls within 2 blocks of this area on the streets and so on. We have been working on this since we were directed by the council to work with engineering stalls with restriping and some things on the streets in that 2-block area. And the hotel development includes a total of 162. So I know you're going to ask for the count. So the count of the, been told, count of the parking stalls today in the surface ramp and in the up the hill, those surface ramps is 194. So we think with 162 plus the 33, we can basically replace the parking that's there today.
Okay, so I'm on the understanding that whatever the hotel has for rooms, that's what we have to have for parking. Is that correct?
Well, the hotel, the Marriott Corporation requires an approximate 1-to-1 ratio of parking stalls to hotels to be on site or near or adjacent in order to get the franchise.
Okay, so would that count, you know, we have a parking ramp real close, you know, so that count, that our parking ramp that's right next to the convention center count as parking?
Is that considered?
Not for the hotel because it's not considered adjacent.
Okay.
What does our agreement with Main Street call for? How many do we have to furnish?
I've discussed this with legal before. I'm not sure that that is actually in effect, but there
It
was.
was not in effect when the agreement first was approved. It required, I believe it was 1,000 parking stalls within a 4-block area, 5-block area. And we met those through the parking ramp.
I would agree. So then why were we told we had to put a parking lot on that hill? Because that's what we were told. Specifically, is our agreement with Main Street Theater says we have to put 70 stalls up there.
That was an agreement that was worked out when we downsized the existing ramp and replaced it with the new one. We agreed that we would move some of those spaces onto that hill.
Well, then if the majority of this ramp is going to be dedicated to the hotel, how is it that we're going to meet that then?
Marty has discussed that with the theater operator, and they seem comfortable with that hotel across the street.
What we don't need is a lawsuit once it opens saying we don't have enough parking stalls.
One other thing to consider is the
you have that
United ramp did not, the United Center public parking did not exist at the time the promenade opened.
So those weren't.
Now, wait a minute. We were told when we did that hill that I was the only no vote on because I said there's enough parking there, we shouldn't spend $270,000, that we had to have that. Now, if we didn't have to have that, why did we do a $270,000 job that we're now going to tear up? I mean, I don't care whether you guys got the votes for the hotel. I'm not fighting that battle, but I don't want to end up with a lawsuit from the theater. We've already got enough issues down there that says you took our parking away, because I can see that coming without some sort of an agreement.
Well, as I said, I've talked with Bill Barstow, and
I don't want to talk. I want it in writing. Talking doesn't mean anything without a contract, Marty. We've been down this road before. Is he willing to sign an agreement to that effect? That the parking we have is adequate? Because this is all going to be devoted, we all know it, to that hotel.
I think generally he expressed to me that he likes the hotel concept. He thinks it'll increase business in the area and be good for the area. He's obviously concerned that there's enough parking. I think the nearby ramps and the policies that we have about allowing people to park there in the evenings he thinks will work okay.
We will see if we can get something in writing from him.
We'll want to confirm.
Yes.
We can do that, absolutely.
Marty, can you go back to the slide before this one, please? Yeah, that one. I'm sorry, probably asking very simple questions, but I really want to make sure I understand this. The private investment, $21 million, that's coming from the developer.
Yes,
That's their money.
they've secured their financing for that.
City assistance, approximately $6 million. That's the TIF.
It's tax rebate.
Tax rebate.
Rebate of their taxes.
There is,
There is no TIF.
It's the sales tax we collect.
TIF and tax rebate are basically the same. It's money you don't have if you don't do the development, so it doesn't cost you anything that you didn't have today. So it's just a different way of saying it, that's all.
Right.
You could do
Where's the
TIF,
$6 million coming from then?
that they'll rebate,
Taxes-
they'll
it's
rebate,
taxes
they'll
collected,
pay their
given back
tax
to
bill
them.
over at the courthouse, and then the
Taxes they're
city will
paying.
turn around and write them a check back.
For the city's portion, only the city's
Right.
portion that we would collect.
Right.
So the county gets their portion?
Yes.
The school
Correct.
gets their portion?
Yes.
Correct.
Okay. And then the convention center improvements, the 5.1 million? The 5.1 million, that's the parking garage?
No.
That's the ballroom.
It's the ballroom and parking garage.
The ballroom, parking
And
garage?
and a pre-function space, which is about a smaller space to connect the hotel to the convention center.
And
So
it's
kind of a lobby.
And it's also the value of the land for the hotel, the value of the land, that's included in that?
In which? In
The land.
It is included in the proposed agreement.
No, but the value of the
Part of
land.
the 5.1, yes.
Oh, part of the 5.1?
Yes, right there.
Okay, we're gonna get to that later. Okay,
Well, I don't,
so where does the 5.1 million come from?
from the reinvestment district,
Which is a
hotel,
state.
motel,
That's
and
a
sales
state
taxes.
Hotel, motel tax. So it's not coming from a general fund or?
No, it's coming from from those hotel taxes being collected and used for that.
But your chart here only shows like 4.4 and 5 and a quarter. You look at your chart. Page 5.
Right, so if you read the updated part, that was that we wanted to give you what we had given you back in June, and then we put some updates in, so that was shifted
Okay,
to show the rebates increased, and we took all of the reinvestment funds and put it towards the city side. So we had looked at doing it as more of a split, and then we worked with Donna and kind of we thought this worked better.
Councilmember, just to verify, is the 5.1, does that include the value of the land? Or does that not show anywhere?
I don't think that does, I think that's.
Does?
Oh,
It does include the value of the land.
all right,
Okay.
so.
The 5.1 does?
Okay.
so, again, so I understand this, did you have a comment? I'm sorry. I didn't mean
Well,
to jump
it says
in.
5.1 IRD funding. Okay? I don't know where you're saying the new numbers are. I'm going by this number, which is, doesn't have it in there, Donna. It's separate. It doesn't show in that funding. And we're showing
What page are you on?
page 5, we're showing $4.5 million. I'm not trying to confuse the issue, and I know you want everybody to understand, Dan, but I don't think we all understand. Am I wrong?
I don't know what your numbers, my numbers were parking grant.
Is there another page that I'm missing? Maybe that's it. Maybe you started earlier with
I still don't see where you're getting that.
page
Mayor.
5, right there.
Well, no, I'm-
Mayor, on that
Add those
page,
two numbers up. That's $4,250,000 roughly.
Right. It probably doesn't show very clearly, Mayor, but basically, the reinvestment district money shown under the Convention Center Hotel was our original plan. We moved that to the city side of the ledger and then increased the rebates to 6. So it kind of shifted that use of the reinvestment funds.
Oh, you've got $1.9 million up above. I see. Okay. So you made the rebate larger then.
Yeah, we took the
So there's
IRD
more
money to
city
the
in it now than what there was here.
We took the IRD money to the city side. That's correct.
Okay.
So let me ask, $70,000 parking lot kept our surface parking lot where it is now, next to the convention center, didn't do the convention center, didn't do the hotel, didn't do the hotel, then none of this money that we're talking, this 5.1 million and the 6 million
It wouldn't be generated.
wouldn't be generated.
Correct. Because the hotel's generating of that newly generated revenue, we're keeping the state's side of it. We would always keep the city side of it. So you could argue that we're also getting more revenue from the city side on the city's hotel motel taxes, but we didn't count that in here. We were conservative on that. We were just counting the state side.
So is that 20-year payment from the state side that could go 20 years? Is that just from that
It goes
hotel?
until you hit your full amount. So they've told us, we applied for 13.9. Let's say we get that, or maybe we get a little bit less than that. We collect that during the 20-year period until we hit that amount. Then it stops. So we can't, in theory, yeah, you could go the 20 years and we'd have a lot more money than that, but they won't, they've capped it. So the state put a $100 million cap on all the projects, and we applied for, and we think we'll get about 13.9 or maybe 13.5, somewhere in there. Because there's still 2 cities left.
Is it from all the hotels?
No.
Just within the district.
Or is it just
Within the district.
new hotel?
Correct.
And from any other source of sales taxes, for example, a restaurant in a hotel, or a restaurant somewhere else, or any other thing generating sales tax or hotel taxes. They have some rules about the percentages of each, and they count hotel taxes as non-retail, but we're well within those guidelines. But essentially, it's like think of it as a sales tax TIF or a hotel tax TIF. So the newly generated funds we get to keep and reuse back in the district.
What happens if that 13.9 is not met in 20 years? If we fall short of it, what happens?
Well, we would,
and I understand
be
that
short.
wouldn't be a good deal, yeah, overall, but what would happen?
The city would have to make that up.
Yeah, we would be short, so.
It's hard to tell projections too, probably, calculate too much.
I think we have, for example, we have the projections that were done for the hotels, if the hotel's built, and I think they were fairly conservative. They weren't overly, aggressive. We stayed with, Donna's pretty good at keeping things conservative. There she is.
Donna Forker, Finance Director.
I had a feeling she was going to come up.
Answer to the question, the geo debt that's being issued is abated by the tax increment district, so the shortage would come from the TIF.
Any shortage would come from the TIF?
Right, and after the 15 year of the tax abatements, that tax dollars would be there as the guarantee for the shortfall.
Okay.
So you're still going to TIF this?
Yes, I am.
Mm-hmm.
So Marty, if we had a hotel down by the Ag Center, for example, so the hotel at the Ag Center, if there were one, that would also be counted.
And I'll get to that when I get to that slide, but yes, we have projected a revenue from other sources in the district, and that we need to have that in order to make all this work, so.
Okay, just one more question, bear with me. So you said earlier, if we took an existing structure and tried to rehab that, it has to be over 50%
of its value.
Of its value.
Right.
That's
just a rule the state established with this program, so that you couldn't just create a district and count and collect all those taxes from something that was already there. They want you to build new. So they put that incentive in there, but they also recognize that there might be a community that had an older building, for example, that they wanted to renovate into a new hotel or something, and that would, so they just arbitrarily said 50%. So 50% of its value.
Its value.
And we have looked at one hotel, as you know, that is looking to do that, and that's a possibility for a second hotel.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
I have one question. So as we go through this whole discussion here, my one question is, how long do we have before this is all over and done with? I mean, we have to have so much in front of Economic Development, Iowa people, right?
Iowa board, yeah, IED
Yeah,
board.
okay, so, and they're gonna give us hopefully 13.9. How much time do we have to get all of our things together
Agreements
here?
ready.
Because, I mean, this could just go blow up right in our
What
face,
they
and we've gone through
really
everything.
care about is that you have your financing in place for the projects that you're going to build.
You know, so.
That's true. I'll
I
be
could have said it
honest.
I
worse.
was laughing at something else.
Yeah, right, whatever. So, you know, so that's my big concern, you know. We've been doing this for how long, and
Well, it was, remember, it was set up to
right
be
now-
it's a little bit of a complex, frustrating process because it was set up to be a 2-year process. The 1 year was your preliminary approval, and then the second year is to get to the final approval and to get all your agreements in place. And even the ones that are approved, like Coralville, haven't started construction yet. So it is a long it's a complicated process. It's a lot easier to deal with the Vision Iowa project where you just write a big check to us. That's a lot easier. This is more complex. But I think we're still okay. They've been very supportive of us, encouraged us every step of the way, both at the staff level and the IEDA
I can
board.
tell you, they're getting a little antsy about it.
They are,
And
we are too.
my other question is, the Ag Center has to come up with a couple $1 million yet. So, you know, I hear the couple of them are not on the board anymore. You know, how are they gonna do this money? How are they gonna get this money in a short period of time? Because if they don't, then the whole project's up in smoke.
I
We're
think,
working on some issues that we'll come back to you with soon.
maybe I can just finish this up and we can take more questions if you want. So, but those, I agree, Rhonda. That's a good point.
Yeah, let's finish it up because I don't want to leave early and have people take shots at me like last week. I want to be here.
So the second project, Virginia Square, is Ho-Chunk's redevelopment of blighted industrial buildings into mixed-use retail, commercial, and market-rate residential. That's funded, as you can see, a little over $20 million, private investment by Ho-Chunk, state grants $1.9 million, IRD funding $1.6, and a city tax rebate $600,000. Renee, I think, has brought this project before you, I don't know how many times, and it's pretty far down the road, obviously. They ended up tearing one of the buildings down and build new there, and they also just acquired a fourth parcel right there too, which is not currently in the district, although we've had some discussions about that and their plans for that. So that continues to progress very well. The other state fundings, by the way, were brownfield and workforce housing credits. So third piece, Ag Expo and Learning Center, unique multi-use complex to host equestrian, ag, and trade shows, and also sports and recreation facilities, something that's gotten a lot more discussion recently. The funding there, private contributions between 3.2 and 4 million. City, county, and MERD 4.5. Other grants 1.2, and IRD funding at 6.7. So some frequently asked questions, and Bob asked us to put these in and address these as some of the questions that have come up in the last week or two. First of all, how has information been shared with the public? Basic plan goes back to March of 2015, and then a number of different steps along the way. We've had pretty extensive media coverage, and also gone back and appeared before the IEDA board a number of times and done our best to share project details at each step of the process. There's been some updates as we put in that information, but the basic outline of it is pretty much the same since we started. Question that we've been asked a number of times, I know you've been asked it and I've been asked it many times, is can the Howard Johnson Hotel be remodeled? I guess we would talk about that in the sense that we have explored that numerous times. Staff and council members have been involved in that from time to time. We explored that before the current owners owned it. When it was in foreclosure, we looked at that. We looked at it after they purchased it. We talked to them about what they'd be willing to do. And I just wanted to share that a number of developers in the last 2 years, especially back during that foreclosure process, looked at that hotel extensively. We hosted a number of them. They came through and looked at it. Most of their opinions was that it was cost prohibitive, and from our standpoint, from what the city would be asked to do, would be cost prohibitive and still may not meet the standards recommended for convention center hotel to improve our convention center's performance. So the current owners, of course, have done some renovations. They're doing some renovations, but again, we've talked to them a number of times. Their plans are fairly limited. So I don't think they get to where we need to get to, in all honesty. And so that's why we moved on to this second plan of for 150 rooms. So that's kind of how that evolved. It's possible that hotel could sell again and somebody else would be willing to put more money in, the kind of dollars that we've been told by hotel experts and developers would need to be spent. But at this point, that's not on the horizon.
Because it's not worth our investment on that side, right? Or right now?
I mean, you'd essentially be having to do it all yourself.
You'd be what?
City would have to do it itself. I mean, the current.
We don't have the, yeah.
Well, they don't have the, I don't know what their funding is, but they don't have the intention to do that.
Is there something like
They,
that?
they're, I don't want to, reveal their information,
Oh, yeah,
but it's pretty limited what they're doing.
Yeah.
Nowhere near what we've been told would be necessary.
So with the three projects, the Convention Center Hotel, Virginia Square, and the Ag Center, it's like a three-legged stool. If one falls, they all fall.
Yes.
Yes.
Can't do two of the three, or one of the three.
No.
Because you're not going to capture enough.
It has to be all three.
Yes.
So a few other questions we've been asked. Is there enough parking at the convention center? We've talked about this already, but studies show there's sufficient parking in the area. And on-site parking will be provided from the new structure and revisions to on-street parking as we described. Where will trade show vendors park, home show, garden show, et cetera? And we did meet with the home show folks a week or so ago. Something we've talked about is if the Ag Center is built and is successful, that may be a great venue for some of those larger shows. In a sense, maybe, if you go to the home show, it's kind of almost outgrown the facility. And we think that might be something that some of those may want to look at. In the meantime, yes, there will be some inconvenience during construction. We will do our best to work with the vendors during those times when we want to keep the facility busy and making money as much as possible during the hotel construction. What assistance is the hotel developer receiving? As we talked about, tax rebates only, and these taxes would not be collected if the hotel was not built. So in conclusion, we think that this is a transformational investment. We've got 3 dynamic anchor projects creating a positive economic impact, $72 million in public-private investment, 273 permanent jobs, 76 million annual earnings, 23 million annual economic output. Those numbers come from a study that we had to do as part of the application to the state. Builds on long-standing revitalization efforts for the Stockyards area, puts a signature project there at their front door. Really, I think, makes a tremendous difference in that entrance to Sioux City, takes advantage of that interstate reconstruction, renews the convention center area and the surrounding, and be a benefit to the surrounding commercial and entertainment district, historic 4th Street, and I think really all of downtown, and bring new investment and visitors to Sioux City. So it's a complex project. I think your questions are excellent. We've done our best to try to take advantage of what we think is an opportunity at the state level. And I think, Rhonda's question about the Ag Center, I think there's some things happening right now that we had a discussion even this morning that I think will come together. And as Bob said, we can give you some updated information on that here, we think, fairly soon.
Yeah,
Some good people working on that.
Can you please go back to the slide with the parking numbers on it, though? The slide with the parking numbers?
Sure.
Because I don't know about the rest of council or the mayor, but that's probably the most frequently asked question I get is about, you're taking the parking away. So the parking stalls within 2 blocks, that includes the United Center public parking?
Yes, the top floor of that. I mean, there's underground parking. The top is public parking. It's not the best signed, I don't think, in the world. It probably could give some better signs, but that is public parking.
But that's in the 349 count.
Yeah.
You're saying we're going to be...
How is that in the public? I thought they've got signs that say reserved for
sections of.
Sections.
That's on the
That
side.
are, that they rent on a monthly basis.
Not in the middle, though.
In front of the parking spots that like face into their door, and then on the side that runs parallel to 4th Street, those are rented on a monthly basis. The remaining parking is, I believe it's 3-hour public parking, or is it 2-hour public parking? 2 or 3
So
hour
are we in
public parking.
charge of repairing that if it starts to go bad?
We have, I believe, is it a maintenance fund that's used to repair the membrane and other structural issues that could pertain to that?
And your comment on the trade shows that we have at the convention center, it's going to be extremely important that we don't miss a beat with what their shows are, so, because they have,
You can't help but miss a beat.
well,
I mean, you can't
no,
build
can
this
still hold-
building without a crane on the backside, which limits where you're gonna have people come in. There's just no way around it.
But can't you do that with the timing of the trade shows that are being held?
No.
Our
can keep
commitment to the home shows, we would work with them the best that we could. They understand there's going to be some conflicts, for a couple years, but we would do our best to work with them. The alternative is that we can never do anything because it's going to take a year to build a hotel.
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying there's gonna be conflicts. You can't,
And our
they're not gonna
commitment is
set a
to work
crane up
with
at
them to do
$400 or
what we can to
$500
minimize
an hour and move down because the trailer wants to back in to unload daffodils. They're not gonna do that. So you gotta recognize that. You do have to recognize, though, that I know that our engineering staff will get this done, but the grade difference of where they're gonna come into that parking lot is significant. Have you guys looked at that? You're probably 6 foot higher than where you are because you're on the flat part, and you won't be on the flat part anymore.
You're talking on the north side?
Yeah, because you're gonna have to back straight in, which is gonna be a long back in. And so you're gonna be backing up the hill and down, right, guys? Or they're gonna be pulling up the hill and backing in, but you're gonna have to build some sort of wall system so the semis don't go over because you're 5 or 6 feet higher in that parking lot where the new driveway will go in compared to where you are right now, right?
Yep,
I don't know if you build that before you build the hotel or after, I don't know, but it's something that has to be done.
And there's no entrance on the other side, right?
On the west side?
Yeah, west side.
No. Enough to unload food for the kitchen, I think. They'll probably have to change the way they unload food, right? Erica, I'm assuming?
I don't know, possibly a little bit, but they should be okay still, based on the plans that I've seen.
Not when they're building that, you won't. But they unload a lot of food out in the front anyway, so it shouldn't be that big a deal for the,
And off of the west side.
They don't do a lot off that side? Is that
they do a lot of food off the west side.
Because that's what I wondered too with thinking about just having vendors, because I've heard vendors saying, oh, well, then I have to run out to my trailer or whatever if it's not right there in that parking lot. And I just wondered too, obviously, if they can park it across the street or if they unload on that west side. I was trying to troubleshoot that too or think about.
No, because the only way you can unload on the west side would be through the kitchen. That wouldn't work necessarily.
Could you redo the door configuration on the little loop?
Councilmember Waters, keep in mind, once the Ag Center is completed, most of these conflicts will be gone because they will have them at the Ag Center.
Yeah.
I think the home show actually admitted that they've more or less outgrown the convention center, and a larger facility would actually benefit them.
Yeah,
All
'cause
on
you could
one
have bigger
floor,
things
yeah.
there,
Yeah.
Bigger vendors,
Yeah.
bigger everything, yeah. No, I think that's a good point.
Marty, just a couple of questions. Well, first I wanted to thank Simcoe for putting that downtown parking report together. I thought they did a pretty good job of explaining the number of parking spaces that are available. And I think we've all discussed the issue about maybe there's a certain amount of mentality out there that we like to park right in front of some place and walk in the front door, but 2 or 3 block walk won't hurt any of us. So I think there's sufficient parking. But back to Rhonda's original question, I want to know, when's the next scheduled meeting with the Economic Development Authority? Are you scheduled to go there April or May or?
April.
April 21st is the next time they meet.
And what will they be expecting from you, the city?
I think they'll be expecting an update. Whether we can present them with a finished proposal, I don't know. Probably not, but I think as long as we keep them informed, they've been good to work with, as I said, throughout the process. So, I think we get down the road in the summer or something, I think we would have, that would be too long. But I think we're okay right now, and they're looking for progress from us out for some additional consideration, and Mason City and Sioux City are kind of in the same basic situation, getting close to final approval. Coralville asked for and got an extension to the end of the year to start their construction, even though they've already gotten final approval. So that's a great project too. But I'm saying there's a lot of steps that have to take place.
And I understand the three components, but for some reason, I thought I was led to believe there's a possibility that they would consider two of the three, but that won't happen?
I think that's difficult.
Okay.
I'm not saying that they wouldn't consider it if we got down to the end and something happened, but we'd have to reconfigure the whole structure. I think it's unlikely.
The problem is you need the hotel to generate the revenue. I don't think the state would look at Ho-Chunk as a project all on its own of meeting the spirit of the reinvestment district. The equestrian center does.
What happened to the
You have to do all three.
Holiday Inn? They were in this for a while. Are they no longer in it?
I think, no, that's still.
We're still working with them.
Yeah.
As a possibility, right?
Up with who?
Existing Holiday Inn.
Is there a chance council can get a copy of your PowerPoint?
Sure.
Thanks, I appreciate it.
Well, and I think we should, I don't know whether the PowerPoint is the right avenue. I don't know what the right vehicle is too, but I think that needs to be as many places as possible. Social media, obviously news outlets covering things like that. I want to have as much people having as much information as possible so that we're not getting blasted or hit up on social media or something for questions or thinking that we're doing one thing when really it's another. I would say, I mean, if you want to condense the PowerPoint or have some bulleted lists, like I know some things were provided to different groups, anything to provide further
I'd be happy
clarification,
to
at least to the
post
public.
it to all those places. I should say,
Hey,
Renee
Councilmember
will do
Waters,
that.
it's a short presentation. We can put it on our Facebook page. We'll put it on our web page.
Yeah.
And we could do a press release letting people know where they can find it, or we can.
Okay, so
if they
here's my
call
next-
us, we can
Absolutely.
email it to them.
So here's my next question. When was the last time that you talked to the state? How long has it been?
A couple weeks.
Just a couple-
Down there at the state,
Yeah.
Oh, like presented to them?
yeah.
February.
Okay, so where have we been since February? What is in stone that we're gonna be able to take down there the end of April to tell them that we're moving forward?
Well, since then, we unveiled more detailed information about the hotel, convention center hotel, developer, revealed that we had financing in place and a name brand hotel chain committed to that. And so all of that would be a step
Okay,
forward
so
from where we were.
Virginia Square that's a done deal, pretty much, right? So now, so now we're kind of a done deal, hopefully, if we have the votes for the convention center. So now this ag thing is really bugging me because that's the part of our puzzle that we haven't really.
Once we have the financing in place for the full financing in place for the ag center, we can finalize the whole
Right.
district. So that's the key. You're correct. It's your decision, I mean, with the convention center and so on, but the component that needs to be tied up is to finalize the financing for the ag center. And then they will be happy to approve our district and we can move forward.
What worries me about that statement then, is it accurate to say then that if we approve the hotel for the convention center, then we still need to get that funding secured before everything happens? So even if we move forward with the hotel and say, yes, we're all on
That
board
would
to
be
get the
wise, yes. Yeah, that's the smart way to do it.
But Councilmember Waters, we will have in our agreement with the hotel, all these are still in it together. We're not going to build a hotel and not build an equestrian center.
True.
They're all tied
It's
together.
part of the package, so
Yeah,
that,
yeah, no,
so if we,
And I want to clarify too, just one thing about my statement earlier is I'm not thinking just the home show either. I want to think about the craft fair and different things that are going on. I think that we need to have an open dialogue with those vendors, because I was at the craft fair too. And thinking back now, it wasn't the home show where I was hearing a lot of that. It was the craft fair. No, I was taken there. It was lovely. But I heard from a lot of the vendors that they are very concerned about that. And I think that, because I don't think they'll want to go to the Ag Center necessarily, but I think that if we can think strategically, like I don't know why you couldn't change the door configuration or something to where you could open it up wider after, at least talk with them about that, so we can continue to have things like that at the convention center.
That's all down the road, though. We got to get past
We have not, we haven't hired an architect to do the work for us for the convention center. We have ideas that have been shared with us from the hotel's architect, but we haven't actually,
I'm not
done
an
that
architect,
ourselves.
but that's my idea. There you go.
Okay, are there any citizens be heard?
Is that Reagan?
Is that your phone that was going on?
Yes, I apologize. I don't know what happened. My watch started dinging my phone. It sounded really urgent though, didn't it? I mean, it sounded like there was a
said, oh God, we're gonna lose her.
Fire or police behind me somewhere. Reagan Cody with Downtown Partners at 418 Pierce Street. You would have received a letter from us last week. Our board met on March 24th and received this information from Marty as well, and are in support, obviously, of the hotel construction for the investment in downtown. One thing I wanted to let you know, though, is in addition to that, over the last week, I usually talk not only, obviously, board members, but some of our major property owners in downtown. And then I also kind of try to go to the different groups in town. You always have those neighborhood talkers that seem to know everything about what's happening in their area. Reaching out to those within downtown had very positive feedback. I did find myself explaining more than I got listening, but that was still good. Understanding and kind of clarifying some of the pieces of this project, much like the questions you asked this evening and that were addressed in Marty's presentation, were very helpful. Also for the next week, we did plan on tomorrow doing quite the launch with putting information on our website, on Facebook posting, and then we have roughly 3,000 to 4,000 emails that we'll be sending out, getting them all of the information and making sure that everybody is aware of what happened, not only tonight, but those questions on bullet points were great pieces that we're going to be using to get those addressed. What happens with the hotel, what's with the parking, and how are the theaters? Just so you know as well, some of the businesses down on Historic 4th had a great weekend when that craft fair was in town and people were parking in Heritage. They were using the ramps, which is not common, I'll give them that, but that weekend was busy. They had some of their best work that weekend. So we realize that we do have a lot of parking. It's just trying to find it, and we'll put public parking spots on the ramps and different things like that. But really wanted to let you know that we're doing what we can to help with the communication in this project. So if there's anything moving forward, we'd like to make sure we address it as well.
Thank you. Thanks, Reagan.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Tim Seaman, I'm the current president of the Events Facility Advisory Board. Thanks for the time to speak tonight. Just a couple of things, just to kind of reiterate and maybe reemphasize what Marty said. First, I'm going to make you feel really good, I guess. I was just recently watching a episode of Iowa Press, the public TV program, and Tom Vilsack, the former governor and ag secretary, was on, and he was talking about the state and the way he sees the state now. And he made the comment that in today's world, if you want to attract bright young people, you have to show commitment to being great. And I heard that, and the first thought I had was I was thinking about this today, and I'm like, I need to remind the council that we need to be great. And then I started thinking through some things, and I changed my opinion. I started thinking back, and you've shown the commitment to historic 4th Street that started a long time ago. You showed the commitment to Cone Park. You've showed commitment to the riverfront development that's being talked about. You've shown commitment to the growth in Parks and Rec Department. Those are all things that I think would fit under what Mr. Vilsack said. And so I guess I wanted to just start by saying, I think you should be reminded that you're already doing great things. This is one more thing that I think could be a great thing if you can come to find a way to put that hotel that would connect to the convention center. We've been here year in and year out, different times that I've been on EFAB, where we've said without a hotel, the convention center cannot possibly operate as it's possibly could at its highest at its highest performance. And I think Kinseth Hospitality has shown a good commitment to Iowa when you look at their properties. EFAB has visited some of those properties. We've talked to those properties, and I think you would struggle to find a better developer at this time. It's not an out-of-town developer from Chicago or somewhere that it might run off in a hurry. Somebody that's committed to Iowa is an Iowan, and I think that would be great. A lot of the discussion today again was about parking. I think I mentioned this last week. There's a lot of parking available. I think there's more about getting people to understand that walking a block isn't a big deal. It's a new framework of thinking about where I park and where I go. As far as vendors, there's been some discussion about vendors not being able to have good enough access or parking. You have to remember the Heritage lot is less than a half a block away, and if you were to reserve the street level of that parking, you would have fairly reasonable access to go to your trailer or whatever. So I think sometimes it seems like, well, I'd have to go to the third floor of the other parking ramp or whatever. And I think there could be ways to arrange surface parking in a reasonable distance that would help accommodate those people. The other thing I think you got to remember as well is that just because you've done things one way forever doesn't mean there's not another way to do it. It just has to be willing to try to work through those headaches. Sure, there will be some issues, but I think the broad vision is that we can make those work.
I'm going to take a little exception with that. I, in particular, have not been afraid to take risks. And, your group and others have taken shots at me the last week, Tim, that are quite frankly unfair. Because I don't agree with this, the way it's laid out, doesn't mean that I'm totally opposed to it. I think that Lou Weinberg raised the point, why is it a 3-story hotel? Why is it an 8? That's what they build in downtown Des Moines. Why are we taking up so much of that space that we don't have to? You know why? Because it's cheaper. It's cheaper to build that way. So because we can't, it seems like, disagree on different things, well, I was accused of carrying John Gleason's water. I take real exception to that. Check my campaign disclosure statement. I think John Gleason gave me $100 in the 3 times I've ran. I do no business with John Gleason. John Gleason has a right to be concerned. He spent all of his money, I know it's across the river, but he spends a lot of money keeping his properties up. And he has a right to be concerned when you're using our tax dollars basically to compete against him.
I don't believe I've ever mentioned John Gleason. I don't know where that came from, but I don't think it was for me.
Dan, would you confirm that? I can show you a text you sent me.
Oh, I'm talking about last week when I was here and made comments in front of the council.
But I'm just saying, I've heard
about
that from other people this week, because that's what obviously must have came up in your board meeting.
Personal discussions aren't what I'm here to talk about, but I did mention last week.
I'm just saying you can agree that a project may be good, but you don't have to agree with the framework. I disagree with the parking ramp. I disagree with the way they're building the building. I disagree that we don't have a management agreement. We've had 2 years to get that managed agreement, and your board's been responsible, could have been part of that, to help negotiate that with Kinseth. And you can say they're a great Iowa company, but
frankly, this project didn't start until.
Does not agree with you. I can tell you that.
You got to remember, this project didn't start until the reinvestment district began. So I mean, to say 3 years ago or 2 years ago, we could have been doing an agreement. We could have been talking about it.
We started some year and a half ago down this road.
Yeah, I would agree, roughly a year and a half.
Okay, and for a year and a half, we've continued to see a drain in our convention center. For a year and a half, we haven't recognized that we don't have enough breakout rooms. And I just said to Dan, if you're gonna do this, which you guys should recognize, and you ought to do it if you're gonna do this, to spend another $1.7 million over in that 20,000 square feet of unfinished space at the museum, because without breakout rooms, you're not gonna attract conventions. Anything that you're gonna attract can go to the Ag Center. It doesn't have to go to this building.
Well, I think you can have that discussion. I think there would be some that would agree with you, and I think there are others in the industry that say that you can provide adequate space to grow another level of convention business. I think that's the other thing to remember here. We're not going to become Chicago because we're adding a hotel to it, but we can grow the convention business. You can do the League of Cities, Tim, one of the best conventions in the state of Iowa. You can't do the school board. Yeah, I talked to Dr. Gosman. You can't do the school board superintendents. And just so that nobody thinks you and I are having a debate, I'm not debating you. I don't think I've been critical that you were against the project. A week ago, I wanted to point out that the comments you made immediately elicited response to our board, or to our staff.
And it
so
immediately elicited two kids with $2.1 million that want to put in a rec center. Now, they don't.
And that's great. I'm not against a rec center, but
I'm just
my
saying
personal opinion is that's not where a rec center would go.
Okay. My opinion is if you want something for the downtown, you would put it there.
You just mentioned the League of Iowa Cities, so I want to mention that because you did bring it up. Well, I may be at my seat, but they sent us a letter and said, let us know how the developments come with the hotel, and then we'll be ready to talk to you about coming back again. So I think they're comfortable with the property that we have to come back to. I don't think they're going to not come back. They want a new hotel. So anyway, that's...
Well, they had an opening in 2019, Erica. You got a letter on it. And if this hotel were to progress as it's supposed to, why didn't we bid it then?
For 2019?
Yeah.
I'll have to check with Brent. I think we
Yeah, I don't know that we didn't bid it, but...
And I know, in fact, that we went down for an actual presentation.
Again, you haven't approved the project, so it'd be hard to elicit business saying there's going to be a hotel.
I was in the board meeting, and we weren't exactly on their radar when they said who would like to have the convention, but anyway. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Just a couple other points. I don't want to belabor. We were here till 7 last week, and I don't think that was the mission today. But when this there's another set of numbers I think are important to remember. When the whole discussion about improving downtown hotel quality started, and Marty talked about some of the developers that came in, you also at that time had the Hunden group, I believe it was. Hundel, Marty, help me. Hunden. Mm-hmm. The Hunden group came in and did some research for you and talked about what that hotel property would do. And I'm struggling because I don't have my glasses on, and it's numbers, so just 1 second here. But they gave you I thought a great example of what could happen. Yeah, Hunden Strategic Partners expected it to generate $219 million in new spending and $89 million in net new earnings inside 20 years. So that's substantial return, I think, in that district. The other point I was going to make about parking, I got off track there as we talked. Parking, like I mentioned last week, isn't nearly as big a deal when people feel like they're walking through an area that's an exciting area to them. Right now, if you walk a block and there's nothing going on, it seems like you're walking 2 blocks because there's nothing going on. I think the addition of that hotel and what they have planned as far as amenities, even on the outside, will again kick up that area as far as the excitement level in the area, the energy in that level, and all of a sudden you're stopping here or stopping there on the way to the movie or whatever, wherever your plans might be taking you. I think it becomes more, the vitality level jumps again if you have a hotel there and the energy that brings to the area. So that was something else that I thought was important to mention as far as parking. I could go on. There's a couple other things, but I won't. But I just think that it's another way to decrease the subsidy. There's no doubt about that. Another use might also reduce the subsidy, but a functioning hotel that has the amenities that today's meeting planners and convention organizers expect, I think would be, I know it would be another big key in helping reduce that subsidy.
It almost seems like 1986 again when I was sitting here. The chambers were on 3rd floor and they were turned the other way. And that's how they sold us on the convention center the first time.
But there was a pretty good hotel connected to it at that point. It was the Hilton. And I don't think the Hilton has many 1-star or 2-star hotels. The Hilton was, I wasn't here at that point, but I do know Hilton.
It was. But we were told that it would never need a subsidy.
Well, I haven't looked, but if you go back and look at the subsidies in 88 when it was built and 90, I'm sure they're not what they are today when there isn't a functioning hotel. And I think you would agree there's always going to be a subsidy. Is the subsidy we receive too high? I would be the first to agree that it is. And if I were in your chair, I would have concerns about that money as well. I'm not saying that that's not an issue. But if you want to reduce that subsidy, I think this is everybody said, from the developer to the consultants, it's a way to do that, and it should be substantial over the years. I don't know that I would be opposed to a rec center or something else in that building if you're not going to build a hotel, because you've put more than $1 million in it over the last 5 years. And if you're going to put that money in it, why would you stop now? I mean, you should have stopped 5 years ago.
Sanity, the definition is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results.
Well, we haven't done a hotel over and over and over again.
But we've
not
had
to
a
go back
subsidy
and
even
forth,
when we
but-
had a good hotel. We had a
But
subsidy.
there will always be a subsidy. You can look at
Well, there
any
may
city
always
that,
be a subsidy, but you have no guarantee that 10 years from now, when this hotel may not be maintained.
that's a look to these properties. That's not an issue. I heard one story where and it's not unique, hotels are required to establish a pool of money to be used for renovations. The Marriott Corporation came into one of his hotels. It was time for that renovation. And they came in and they said, don't worry about spending the money. Your hotel, the property has been maintained so well, we don't require that you make those improvements. I mean, I'm not making a broad statement, say that everyone
I know
is.
he's a wrestler and you're an old wrestler, and God, we love wrestlers, but.
All right, we're both smiling now, so I will go ahead and sit down. Thank you for
Tim,
the time.
I just wanted to thank you for your remarks. So, and the earlier point you were making, if I heard you right, I'm a little sensitive too, because I'm trying to find a different way to do parking too, for myself personally. But you're right, and with parking, we just need to learn a better way to do the parking. I mean, as
Well, Sioux
users.
City is a park out front, buy a ticket the day of the game.
Well, I'm
town.
part of Sioux City, and I get that, and so I'm relating to that, Mayor, but I need to change what my thinking is, that you park in the.
Well, the problem is there's 80,000 people that are not gonna change.
Okay.
No, I think that's Tim's point.
Yeah, I mean, that has to be a
we'll
part
find a way.
of a mission, is to help
for you.
change that. And I think here's the example I'll give you. I know Sioux City isn't Lincoln. I know it's not Omaha. But if you go to Lincoln in the Haymarket District, or you go to Omaha in the Old Market,
Yes.
you're willing to park 6 blocks away because I'm going to walk by 6 restaurants and 12 drinking establishments and a couple of antique shops, and all of a sudden, I'm enjoying myself, and my walk isn't a big deal. But when I have to walk 2 blocks through empty buildings and the cobblestone that's coming up, that's not a good experience. It's easy to not like my parking. And I know the cobblestone is another thing. You're doing just one more thing in that area near the promenade that'll help make that a more energized area. So,
I got one thing I want to add to this on an up note. I want to thank the mayor for bringing up the rec center in the first place on the convention center, because that generated a lot of talk and a lot of phone calls. And we might just be sitting on a really, really good sports complex. And so if it wasn't for Mayor Bob there talking about it, at least bringing it to our attention and to the city's attention, we may not even have the opportunity to work with these people. And I've talked to them, and I'm telling you, they're very, very excited.
I have a great building for you. The Shopko building is now vacant. It has a huge parking lot. It's near the bypass.
At Shopko.
Huh?
Kmart.
Or Kmart. My bad, Kmart.
Things aren't high
Kmart.
enough.
Well, I haven't been in it, so I don't know. Maybe.
Ceilings are not high enough.
Anyway,
Scare the chef door.
Anyway.
Can I just add, I agree with Rhonda and.
thank you.
Thanks,
Mayor.
Tim.
Thanks, Tim.
Thanks, Tim.
Mayor had made a very good point about the need for recreation. We also met with the group that he brought forward, and I think something's going to come out of that. I think they're great young men, and they have some great ideas.
Yeah.
But here's the deal, I'm just gonna say the other side of things. If you put the rec center where the convention center is, we're the largest city in western Iowa. I can't imagine the city of Sioux City being without a convention center. So we put the convention center somewhere else.
Council Bluffs got out of convention center business. Gave it to the casino. And they have a lot more breakout rooms than we do, by far. So, I'm just saying.
2 questions I
It's
have.
also tied to the arena. It's just not a convention center. It's tied to the arena, I believe.
But they gave it all to casinos. They got tired,
It's a much bigger property to begin with, not just a convention space.
They still
they
have
got tired of the subsidy.
They still have a
2 other
convention
questions, just
center.
one. Can you develop, or maybe there is one, maybe Simcoe put it out, a map that I would like to see is the distance from the entrance of those parking ramps to the entrance of the convention center, what that footage is, and then also I also want a measurement from the far end of the parking lot to the front door of the convention center.
Here's the problem. parking ramps back in the day and you only put the elevator where you thought the skywalk was gonna be. If you'd have built that parking ramp today, the one that's directly across from the convention center, you'd have put an elevator on the southeast corner. Down the ramp, you gotta walk all the way back. And for a guy like me to go down those steps with bad knees, it's not easy, but I do it because it's a lot less time, and if you're gonna walk, you're gonna walk. But you build it wrong, or we should have had 2 elevators in those ramps where they were close to the convention center. Because telling you where the entrance is,
Unless you park on the bottom level, you mean?
well, it doesn't even matter then, because you can't park on the bottom level in that ramp. On that one, across from convention center, you have to go up a floor. And the elevator then is up there, which is on that southwest corner, but then you've got to get all the way over to the,
I think if you look at Heritage, I'm not sure, but I think the Heritage lot does have one that would be on the south.
never parked in it, so I can't tell you. It
And
didn't
that's the
used
newer
to.
one. I mean, that's where you've done the most work recently, that,
Not sure, I'd have to look.
that would be closer to the front door of the convention center than, what's the other one, the Heritage?
I'm just saying, if you want to do what you want to do, make sure that you do it where the elevator is.
Discovery.
because-
The walking distance, yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's fine.
Right.
I think that's a good one. I think it's a good point. And I think to Tim's point too, I want to, and I don't want to keep us here long either, but I do want to thank you and reiterate the point that I think Governor Vilsack is trying to make, is that if we want to attract greatness and be great as a state, we have to continue striving for that. And I know that that's the entire reason that I wanted to be appointed to this council and wanted to be a part of working with these folks up here, is because I think that we are on the cusp of that. I think that we have had some great projects, and I think we're continuing to have some, and I think we have good momentum, and I think the mayor brings up some good points. I think it's had good conversation. It might have taken me off guard at first, as maybe it did others, but I think that good conversation have come from that, and I hope we continue progressing so that we are able to capitalize on some of these projects. And
But why not a 6-story, 7-story hotel rather than, that's the
5?
problem in downtowns. You don't want to go up anymore but why not, Marty? Have you asked them the difference in the cost?
I think you're right. I think it's assumptions are about cost of taller buildings than 5 stories. I think change the dynamic with elevator costs and those type of things. I don't know for sure, but I think that, we did talk about that early on, what's the best configuration for the site. And I do think it increases the cost of the per room cost of construction.
How much? I guess I'd like to know that.
I can find out
Yeah,
for
let's
you.
ask, since it's been
I can find out.
asked of us, I think we should ask them. And
Well,
if-
your requirement for a parking ramp may not even be necessary if you do that. You understand that? You've got the parking stalls up on the hill, and you'd save half of what you have on the surface if they went up rather than.
Right. The beauty of this discussion today, though, on the 3rd, is that we now have 2 weeks, because it'll be before us on the 17th, correct, Mayor?
Yeah.
April 17th is when we have the agenda item back to us.
you're saying shrink the square footage and go up rather than
Right.
bigger footprint.
Please
right?
note, we're still negotiating the management agreement. We will not bring back a recommendation for approval until we have a management agreement in place. So we will defer until we have a management agreement that we
Are
can
we
recommend to
negotiating with
council.
anybody else on a management agreement?
At this point, no, we're not, because we haven't received proposals from anybody else.
But we didn't ask for them either, right?
No, but this is the point where anybody that could come forward with a competing proposal.
Well, I don't think people understand that, to tell you the truth.
If they're a big company, they ought to.
You're talking about the 30-day process.
Right.
That's running
No,
now.
I don't think they do understand. I think they thought that they were negotiating the 30 days, what the average person in the hotel business thought was, you've got 30 days to make a proposal on the hotel, not to make a proposal on the management, because that was not part of the agenda item at all.
I don't think they'd do the hotel if they didn't manage it themselves.
Yeah, but they go hand in hand.
The resolution contains criteria as to what the city will consider for a project. I'm trying to bring that up right now and I can read it to you, but it has to do with the scope and the investment and the overall project.
Well, so are you telling me that, well, that's bothersome, because I thought other people would have a chance to at least negotiate the management.
Well, how can, that doesn't work, because if if we had a different hotel operator manage the convention center, but we didn't build the hotel, then it doesn't work.
Don't let them build the hotel, but why do they have to manage the convention center? You give them a per day price, just like you get right now. What difference does it make who manages it?
Well,
That's
they
been
could-
my
they
point
could
all
sub-
along. If they manage it, what's their incentive to rent our building out?
Somebody could submit a proposal that does not include managing the convention center. They could submit a proposal to build a competing different hotel.
But why can't
in the
somebody
same spot.
make a proposal to run the convention center? I have a little concern about under a non-disclosure. I know Tim will tell me they're great operators, but there's a concern on my part when a mayor tells me that. A mayor that I have a lot of respect for. So I'm wondering why, I mean, if you're saying that they're the guys, no matter what, we're just gonna negotiate, boy, that's not a very,
That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying we will not bring back any recommendation to approve anything with Kinseth until we can also bring back a recommendation for a management agreement for the council to consider.
right, understand that. But are you only considering them for the management agreement?
No,
Okay, that's what I thought I heard you say.
no.
Okay.
Well, how would that work?
That's not gonna happen.
How would that work if whoever has the
Well, why
hotel-
couldn't the people running it today still run it? You give them a price, just like they do today. If I want to go rent it, I get a price. What difference does it make who gives me the price?
If a different hotel operator came along and said, we would like to put a proposal in to build a hotel on that site, but we choose not to operate the convention center, we want you to continue to operate it on your own, we would consider that and compare it to what Kinseth is proposing.
But if the convention center isn't available when the hotel is trying to book conventions, or if it's the convention center booking the conventions, how do
The
you know you're
convention
gonna
center in
have
Des
the
Moines
rooms
doesn't
available?
rely upon, they don't tell the hotels when.
I would think the hotel would have to have some control over.
They
what
could have
goes in-
they'd have, just like I get with Erica today, I get dates from her, and that's when I'm playing football. And if I want to move that date, or somebody wants to bump me with a concert, we sit down and talk about it. Happens all the time.
So what difference does it matter if,
It's about the fee. It's about the fee.
it makes more sense to me to have it all in one.
Well, why are you gonna have a separate vendor for food then? Make Kinseth do the food.
Well, they were talking about that, I thought,
No.
weren't they?
Kinseth would do the catering at the convention center.
But you're not guaranteed they're going to.
If they got this proposal, they would be the caterer for the convention center.
Okay.
They would be doing the whole thing the way I understood it. And also including maybe the ballpark, is that correct?
No.
It'd have to be clearly.
Currently going
spelled
out with an RFP for catering for Tyson, the ballpark.
I can
and
tell you
the
how it's
airfield.
gonna work. I think they count the Fox and the.
And the air, okay, airport, not the ballpark.
I picked up on that a few minutes ago.
Okay. Anything else? Anyone else want to be heard?
Marty, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Marty.
Yeah.
Mr.
We'll get you that
Padmore,
other
thank you
information.
for arranging this.
You're welcome.
It was helpful for me. I hope it was for others, but
Extremely. Appreciate you getting that done.
it's helpful for you.
Absolutely. I know even more now why. Pete.
Yeah, I was going to mention this last week, and I didn't.
I did
but
say, does any citizen want to be heard?
I wanted to acknowledge the Journal. A week ago Sunday, on March 26th, they did their leisure and recreation sections in the newspaper, and the sections highlighted a lot of the leisure and recreational opportunities available in the city, and sometimes these all lend themselves to, good quality of life, and I sometimes maybe we don't take a look at all the things that are going on, but I just went through there, and these things they highlighted, which I think are worth taking note of. Cone Park, the trail systems, Children's Museum, Pearl Street Park, Saturday in the Park, golf complexes, courses, Art Splash, Rivercade, Miracle Field, Lewis and Clark Interpretive Center, Bandits, Musketeers, Explorers, the Symphony, and a whole bunch of dining opportunities. So I wanted to thank the Journal for putting that in there and bringing it to the attention of people that boy, there are a lot of good things that are happening here, and we just need to take advantage of them. Then I wanted to mention the Faster Day, and it was, they really had a great, I guess I would equate that to a cultural fair. I know that I was told last year at Long Lines, they can only have 50 vendors. This year, they got 80 vendors. And it just really was going well and got a lot of people. I don't know what the pay. One of the civil service commissioners, Troy Nelson, had his last day. He just finished basically 3 assignments. The first one, I think he finished up maybe 2 to 3 year period for somebody who had left.
He took my place years ago when they threw me off.
Oh, did he? Then it's been 9 years, so we had a brief discussion about there are no applications on file, I don't believe, for the Civil Service Commission.
Just the one re-app that did we interview her last week, or did you guys?
Yes, last week.
Cynthia, Dr. Cynthia?
Yes, and she's coming, but she's already on the commission.
Re-app.
So we do need a new member, so I want to encourage people who may be interested in a position on the Civil Service Commission to take a look at that. But in the meantime, Troy has agreed to be a holdover and continue to serve on the commission until we get somebody. And Justin Vondrak was the city attorney who represents the city as well at the commission hearings, and he said what it would take is just a council direction to say it's okay for him to hold over. He said there would be no vote.
He serves till he has a replacement.
Oh, okay. So council's fine with that?
That's how any board is.
Okay. I'll leave, Justin just said we needed council direction. So if council's good with it, I'll send Janelle Bertrand back a note and say it's fine, and Troy is happy to serve and has done a great job, so.
And this won't surprise you, but I'm working hard and trying to fill that.
You have to get a mail.
Yeah.
That's what I was gonna say.
To fill that position.
Yes.
And
I've talked to a few people too.
this one's kind of an uphill fight for me.
Yeah, that's.
Because it's quite
A great board to serve
quite a
on.
Yeah.
No, but I mean, it's quite a commitment.
No, I know, but I enjoyed it till I was.
You weren't throwing off.
Nicole, do you want to tell them? There was a state law that threw me off. And I must say that
Oh, that was.
they were
different.
happy to see me go.
Have a party
I can't
for it?
imagine that.
What was the law?
They have it going on.
That you could not have any business dealings with anybody who had business with the city.
Oh,
And so if I bonded a guy, that was such a stretch of the law, but they made sure they researched it well. They changed the law, right?
When he decided to run for
They did.
council.
yeah. Well, Troy's been a really effective member
Good guy.
of the Civil Service Commission, has done a great job, and it's nice that he's willing to continue to commit until we find somebody
You weren't there.
for that position, so.
It was an attorney.
And I
that
imagine
figured it
it's,
out.
I remember that.
is it advertised on the website? I didn't look at.
I was
Yeah,
here.
Yeah,
Get the
so,
word out.
it was an
Do
absolute.
some recruitment.
And who was the
good, thank
HR
you. And
lady? She couldn't.
somebody, Janelle told me that you were out working hard at it, and I figured if you can't find somebody, nobody's gonna.
She couldn't-
I'm working on it.
She couldn't wait.
I had one that said he'd be interested.
That's all I
Janelle
had.
was supposed to get
Was there
Thank
any
you.
citizens to be heard on any other matter? Dan thought I didn't make that clear. Okay,
Sorry.
Okay,
I just
so
want to make sure.
Yeah, I thought it was just
Yeah.
on the.
Rhonda?
I'm done.
Good.
I'm going to be gentle about this, but the multicultural fair that you're talking about, did you see anywhere where we had any recycling bins out
I agree.
for all of our plastic
I don't
bottles?
think I did.
I took mine home, but we need to get our recycling bins
I agree.
out and about and be really good role models.
I agree completely.
Otherwise, that fair was spectacular. I mean, it was a good turnout.
I had a funeral to attend or I would have been there.
No, I'm looking at you because you're the mayor, not because I'm.
Because you're looking at me because I wasn't there.
I look this way. It was a great fair, wasn't it? Yeah. I know it was good. But I just want to be mindful because you know those recycling bins we have at home?
What color are they?
Pink.
Mine's pink and it's
Yeah,
free.
I have a pink
It's
one,
free.
too.
Free?
I
Yeah.
have a couple more things.
Yeah. The re-event. 3 events. April 22nd, 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. Long Lanes Family Rec Center parking lot.
Is that the same day as
Litter dash,
the,
it's the litter dash is
litter?
the day before. Litter
Oh,
dash
the
is
day-
the 21st, the
Litter
re-event is
dash
the
is
We'll talk about
Friday.
it tomorrow with their lunch.
Oh, yes, join.
Well, they won't do the litter
Okay.
dash
That's
on
tomorrow,
Friday.
environmental.
Yeah, noon.
I'm done. Friday afternoon?
I just want to congratulate the hockey team on winning the
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
division.
Is it the Anderson Cup? Is that
Clark
what they-
Cup.
It just means that football team won't get on the field as early as
Anderson?
we'd hoped. What the heck?
Oh, the big
Glad
boys.
hockey
Hey,
team won, so
you're 5-0.
You'll bring home a championship too, Bob.
Maybe
Jesus.
this will be the
They're
year we all
5-0
get
right
one,
now.
so. I move we adjourn.
Second.
Scott?
Aye.
Waters? Capron? Greckin?
Aye.
Moore?
Aye.
You know, when you put them